Hey there, I'm Leslie Marshall. Welcome or welcome back. Only true democracy in talk. Thank you for listening, for watching live or taped or, delayed, however you get the program. We really appreciate you. This is our last broadcast, not forever, just in 2024 before we hit the holiday season. Happy Friday to you. Some of you working today, some of you traveling, very, very busy. I'm hearing in California where I live that LAX has the largest number they've ever had. Well, I shouldn't say ever had, in a decade, a largest number of travelers in a decade for Christmas, not talking about Thanksgiving, which tends to be the number one travel time of the year. Well, before we get traveling, we are me, Leslie Marshall, and my wonderful guest in this portion of the hour. Fred Redmond is Secretary Treasurer of the 60 unions and 12.5 million members of the AFL-CIO. Now, in 2022, he was unanimously elected to that position as the highest ranking African American officer in the history of America's labor movement. And his path to the Federation's second highest office began back in 1973 when he worked at Reynolds Metals Company in Chicago. He became a member of the USW, the United Steelworkers Union. He was active in the local union and almost immediately served as shop steward. Eventually, he was vice president. He served 3 terms as local president. In 2021, he was elected president of the Trade Union Confederation of the Americas. Now, if you don't know about it, that's a prestigious post. It's a prestigious international post. Now, the website for the AFL-CIO is aflcio.org. Their handle on Facebook, on Instagram, on X is at AFL-CIO. And if you want Secretary Treasurer Redmond on X, follow him there. His handle is at STRedmond, STREDMOND. More than a pleasure to have you with us, Secretary Treasurer Redmond. I know you got a lot going on and the holidays are around the corner. Let's get to it. We have a change in administration coming up in January, and we're going from a very pro-worker, pro-union administration and president to a guy that's being advised by the likes of Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and maybe Jeff Bezos and others who aren't so pro-union. But there's no source that union workers trust more for information about politics than other union workers. It's not what they necessarily see on television, and God, thank you, not what they see on TikTok. So why do you think they turn to their fellow worker to get information about politics and know that they can trust that information about their fellow union worker, the brother or sister within the union, within the AFL-CIO?
Well, thank you, Leslie. It's first of all, it's good being with you, and I do want to say that you're exactly right. There's no source that union members trust more for information about politics than their fellow union workers. That's why the core of the AFL-CIO's political program, and this election cycle, I just want to note that we had our largest ever electoral mobilization.
Yes.
And the strategy is these conversations that we have between workers at the job site and at their door, at their home, about how the presidential race impact their jobs, their contracts, their rights and freedoms. It works. It works because, our polls showed that union members went for Harris 57% to 41% over Trump. And, it's one of those sort of things I think that when union members talk to each other, people who they live with at work every day, people who they share common concerns with, then, it's more effective than hearing it from a talking head on with present company excluded, or CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. Even it's more important to them to hear from their fellow workers than it is from a person like me or Leah Schuler, because these are people that they trust, that they share concerns, they know their kids, they understand each other. So our mobilization program, we recruited in our 60 unions our most active activists around, and people who is eager to do this work and have these conversations. And folks responded. The problem is there's not enough of us, to really make a difference. But we're proud that based on our labor campaign, we was able to really, really win some key legislative races, some key municipal races around this country. So the key is to have that member-to-member conversation at the work site, and to have union members knock on union members' doors.
No, absolutely. Now, you mentioned the support for Vice President Harris, who ran and
Yeah,
lost for the presidency, for the upcoming 4 years. There are a lot of people out there that say, well, she didn't have the support of the workers, she didn't have the support of the union, but that's not true because the union vote for Vice
yeah,
President Kamala Harris this year outperformed the vote for President Joe Biden in 2020. And despite the massive headwinds that Democrats faced in this year's elections, union voters turned out. They turned out for her after months of person to person contact that focused heavily on those pocketbook issues that a lot of people say Democrats didn't touch upon. Union members, to your point, voted 57-41 for Harris, and that is a slight advantage over 2020. That is according to AP's VoteCast. Now, the union vote almost single handedly kept the presidential race close across the blue wall in other battleground states. Now, when you hear President-elect Trump speak, you would think it's some kind of a huge
yeah.
landslide and all the blue wall states, flipped red, but that's not really the case. There were definitely pockets of red, but those states are pretty much still blue, if not purple. And it also propelled Democratic Senate candidates to victory in closely contested races. I mean, look, you have less than a handful of a majority for Republicans. So what lessons do you think we can take away from that, Secretary Treasurer Redmond, as well as the rest of the election? Because there were huge victories for Democrats flipping some seats, flipping 4 or 5 seats, um, and honestly, they were forecasted to lose much worse in the House and the Senate than they did. So they made some great gains. Obviously, the White House wasn't one of those gains.
Right, right. Well, Leslie, we organized for months to produce this nearly 17-point advantage for Vice President Harris with union members. But the lesson that we learned is it is clear that the economic struggles that working class people are facing, is causing real legitimate pain. And neither party has, in my opinion, sufficiently addressed it. And, the results is now we're faced with the reality of a second Donald Trump term, and the Project 2025 agenda. It promises to this. It promises to dismantle labor unions because, look, we're a pillar of democracy, and we're a check, and we're going to continue to be a check on presidential power. And look, we've seen assaults on our fundamental rights before. In the days, months, and years ahead, labor's task, our job, will be to defend working people when it happens again under this term of Donald Trump. Because, the labor movement gives voice and clarity to the struggle of working people, and that's what we do and what we've always done. So, we've learned from this, election. We learned that, we have to continue to address the needs of working class people, but we need our friends in the Democratic Party to do the same.
Right.
And right now, we're engaged in discussions with the Democratic Party on leadership going forward. We distributed what our principles are to see a progressive Democratic Party. And, we need help. Okay. We can talk to working people as working people. Okay. But if the Democratic Party is going to be the voice of working people, then we think that their message should be a little stronger and be a little bit more concise and a little clear to how they're going to defend the needs of working people.
When you talk about leadership positions, you talk about Democrats. Well, obviously, we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate,
Mm-hmm.
and a Republican president. I'm going to ask you a question and I'll have you answer it on the other side of the break because I want to give you enough time. And I wanted your take on the nomination of Lori Chavez-DeRemer for Labor Secretary. And we'll get your take on that when we come back because obviously, Republicans, some people say that she
Yeah.
has a pretty pro union track record, especially as a Republican. Some people are surprised Trump picked her. Some people are happy that Trump picked her, but some people not so much. So we'll get what you say as Secretary Treasurer of the AFL-CIO, one of the world's largest unions, over 12 million members. Like I said, folks, if you want to get more information about the AFL-CIO, go to their website. It's a plethora of information. Go to AFL-CIO.org. On Facebook, on Instagram, on X, follow them there. Their handle at AFL-CIO. And if you want to follow Secretary Treasurer Redmond, his handle on X is at ST Redmond. That's at ST Redmond. I'm Leslie Marshall. More with Secretary Treasurer Redmond and you right after this. Don't go away. We are back. Hey there. Happy Friday before the holiday. A lot of people traveling today, tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. I'm Leslie Marshall. Welcome back. Only true democracy and talk. Secretary Treasurer of the AFL-CIO, Fred Redmond, is our guest. The website for the AFL-CIO is AFL-CIO.org. And please follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and X, or pick one of those. Their handle at AFL-CIO, and on X, also follow the Secretary Treasurer at ST Redmond. So before the break, Secretary Treasurer Redmond, I asked your take on the nomination of Lori Chavez-DeRemer for Labor Secretary. What are your thoughts? What are the AFL's thoughts on her being nominated for that position?
Well, first of all, Leslie, I want to make it clear that the AFL-CIO, we're committed to work with anyone who wants to do the right thing by workers, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or independent. But we will reject and defeat any attempts of people to roll back the rights and protections that working people have won. And this particular pick, Lori Chavez-DeRemer, she has built a pro-labor record in Congress, including as one of only 3 Republicans to co-sponsor the PRO Act and 8 Republicans to co-sponsor. She was one of 8 Republicans to co-sponsor the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act. But look, Donald Trump is the president-elect, not the congresswoman. So it remains to be seen in this administration with a dramatically anti-worker agenda, will she remain her independence, okay, in terms of being an advocate for workers' rights. And, despite having distanced herself from Project 2025 during the campaign, President-elect Trump has put forward several cabinet nominees with strong ties to Project 2025. So, we're, how should I say it, cautiously optimistic. We're willing to work with Representative DeRemer as the labor secretary, but it's about which DeRemer is going to show up. Is she going to show up as a mouthpiece for President-elect Trump, carry out his objectives for organized labor, or is she going to show up and be the independent voice that she has shown in the past? And we hope it's the latter, because we want to work with her. But if she comes out during the bidding for President Trump and Project 2025, then we're ready to oppose her when it comes to workers' rights.
Throughout various industries, we have just seen more unions, right? We've seen more supportive unions. We've seen more people request union membership and unions to have their back against corporations. We have just seen a surge, right? In unions, and when you see professional athletes or people in Hollywood, baristas, the list goes on, all unionizing. I'm wondering about the NLRB. Now, the National Labor Relations Board, there are legitimate concerns that the National Labor Relations Board is going to take an anti-union turn under Trump, to your point, talking about DeRemer. How do you organize under an NLRB if it ends up being unfair to organize labor?
Well, look, the composition of the NLRB is quite naturally going to change, but we don't know yet how much. And whatever the outcome, union organizing will not slow down, because workers in this country are understanding that the best path to sharing in the wealth that they help to create is through collective action and collection action should result in collective organizing. Collective organizing should result in collective bargaining, which is the path to fairness and the workshop. And although we may not be able to rely on Trump's NLRB to fight against illegal union busting like the Biden NLRB did, but that won't stop workers from joining unions. The popularity of unions is at a 70-year high and it's growing, and we don't see that changing. And if anything, having a union on the job is going to be even more important in the next 4 years than it was in the last 4 years. So look, we've been fighting against union busters for years, and we know how to hold them accountable. Workers will be aggressive in terms of exerting their rights, and we'll use every tool in the toolbox to ensure that corporations are recognizing workers' desires to form unions. So we're going to be very aggressive in our approach. We're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with workers who desire to join a union and to organize a union. And one of our priorities over the next 4 years is going to be to support workers throughout this country who want to participate in collective bargaining and form a union.
Well, to the point of the National Labor Relations Board, do you have a reaction on the woman who's been selected to succeed Lauren McFerran, that's Gwynne Wilcox, to chair the NLRB, or does it not matter? It doesn't matter who they put in there. If they're being pro labor, you'll work with them, and if they're not, you're going to work with them, but it's going to be a much more difficult relationship.
Yeah, it would be a much more difficult relationship, and we had those type of people heading the NLRB before who went into the office with the sole goal of representing the corporations and not workers. And we're going to be very, very aggressive in our approach. We hope that the new chairman of the NLRB will come into office with a appetite to support workers, to support workers' fundamental rights, to organize and bargain collectively. But look, we'll see. But if the NLRB take a drastic turn toward the uh, tremendous success that workers have had and support from the Biden NLRB, then we will be prepared to make sure that we're out there with those workers every step of the way. And I'm talking about the entire labor movement,
Right.
because the thing that we know is that solidarity works, and when the labor movement sticks together, when workers who want to join a union know that they can depend on the labor movement to have their backs. Okay. And then that will and determination of workers to say enough is enough. Okay. Then it's going to be that sort of momentum that we think that's going to land us some great victories over the next 4 years, despite the hostility that we hope we don't, but we anticipate we might see from Trump's NLRB.
The AFL-CIO's official X account posted yesterday, and I quote, "There's nothing efficient about a pair of billionaires shutting down the government and jeopardizing the paychecks and essential services that hardworking taxpayers and their families depend
Mhm.
on days before Christmas." What is your take on the impending government shutdown? They have till midnight tonight. It's not looking good. Of course, they want to blame Democrats, even though 38 Republicans voted against this. And it would seem not Donald Trump, but Elon Musk is pulling the strings on this one, and certainly pulling Speaker Johnson's strings.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was cruel when you see what was in the compromise bill, the bill that the Democrats and the Republicans forced together, which Elon Musk and Donald Trump, um, encouraged the Republicans. Well, not encouraged, but threatened the Republicans to dismantle. When we see the cruelty of that, because what this bill did was provide cancer research for children. What this bill did was offer necessary relief to farmers. What this bill did, this compromise bill, what it did was to provide support for our veterans and for military families. So the cruelty of this, and now we got workers working today, wondering if at 12 o'clock come, will they be
Right.
Will they be getting paid next week? Will they
The
be
stress
working?
of that.
And the stress of that, is just, cruel. So look, the Republicans have put together a bill. We heard it'll be voted on later tonight. The Democrats is holding their cards tight. That I got a call right before I joined you, Leslie, that they're really going over the provisions of the Republican bill that's going to be put forward. And look, one thing we know for sure: the bill that the Republicans is going to put together tonight does not equal, okay, the support for working families that the compromise bill did. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Some Democrats who I've talked to earlier today, say they might have to hold their nose and, do what they have to do in order to keep the government open. And and some Democrats are saying, look, we want to go back to the compromise bill. And what the Republicans did is just a disrespect toward workers, and I totally agree. So we'll see what happens.
I just want to say that it was just announced, and very exciting, that rising Democratic star Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is going to be the keynote speaker at the 2025 AFL-CIO MLK Civil and Human Rights Conference in Austin, Texas. That's January 9th through the 12th. And if you want more information on that, you want to go to that conference, you want to say, hey, how can I be a part of it? How can I watch it? How can I watch her speech? Go to the website for the AFL-CIO, aflcio.org. You can also get information on that and many other things regarding unions and labor and your rights if you choose to unionize, or if you're already within a union. Go to their handle, go to Facebook, Instagram, X, follow them there. Their handle there is at AFL-CIO. And Secretary Treasurer Redmond's handle on X is at ST Redmond. I'm Leslie Marshall. Marky Mark Grimaldi is our executive producer. Secretary Treasurer Redmond, to you and yours, a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and everything else if I've missed anything, and Happy New Year. More than a pleasure to have you with us. I look forward to working with you in 2025.
Well, thank you, Leslie, and we look forward to working with you and your listeners. Have a very happy and safe holiday, and let's get ready for the fight that lay ahead. Thank you.
Absolutely. 4 years.
All right.